think we got everything. All right, here we go. Episode number, I can't remember.
I don't know.
Let's go with number 191.
Okay.
Now, I could be completely making that up. This is a special episode of the Trust Faith Podcast. We have an honest and necessary conversations. Conversations that you might not be having at your local Sunday morning service. I'm one of those tech, along with
Fred Green
and
Jay Blunt.
And today we got a special guest back again, the legend, Mr. John Brooks, CEO of Palmly. Hello.
Thank you all.
We got
a button?
We got a button for you.
Oh
my gosh.
That was the worst.
I think that was planned.
How many?
No, we're sorry.
Right.
It was supposed to be.
Like the old,
He's got
like
9
the,
buttons and none work.
All right.
Oh, you messing up the video now.
Oh man.
Okay, never mind. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's anti-climax.
One more time.
All right. Come on.
We'll edit it out. We'll edit that part out.
Keep it. John, what's going on, sir? Could you introduce yourself to the people? Tell us about your company, Palmly, and we'll get started.
My name is John Brooks.
Hey.
I'm a co-founder and CEO of Palmly. We match people to churches that fit their unique needs and personality. Just trying to be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Come on, somebody.
I'm thankful to be back on the show. You know, I didn't wear out my welcome the first time, so I'm back. Next time I'm gonna be live.
Come on,
Okay.
come through.
I'm gonna be live.
Yes.
Let's do it. All right, we got a great show today. Okay, you guys know I'm not one for slicing things up. Okay, I like to keep it biblical and honest.
All right. We're playing one truth and a lie, obviously.
Okay, so I was praying, and then while I was praying, John called me and he said, "I'm tired of these internet preachers. We need to get them off the internet right now." It's like, so we do have a great conversation about and John just said some things that was actually pretty fascinating to me that I did not know. We'll discuss on the podcast.
Yeah.
Is internet preaching helping or hurting the body of Christ? Now, my original assumption would be heck no, but I don't know that may not be the case. So I wanted to have a discussion on that, but then also tie into that, not just preaching, but the whole Instagram influencer. It's like, and Christian influencer, I should say, this idea that like, you know, I must admit, I'm a bit hypocritical. I'm posting videos. I'm in this circle, but I do think part of it actually may piss off God. I mean, I don't know. I just think people get kind of high up in thinking that their perspective is truth. So anyway, I'm not even going to get into all my things about it, but did want to have a conversation about is internet preaching helping or hurting? And then John, can you share what you just shared with us about what you guys are finding about this third category of people when it comes to looking for people looking for a church? Again, Palmly does many things, but one of the things they do is help match people with churches. And in doing that, you guys found some interesting things that we can discuss.
Yeah, so traditionally we thought about people in buckets of either unchurched, which means they've never been to church. This would be like their first time dipping their toe in the faith. They just are curious. And then you had people that are churched, right? Whether they went to, they got drugged to Sunday school when they were 5 and had to go all the way until they were 15. And then they went off to college and, did their own thing. And now they're coming back, right? So those people were like considered church. They had some form of knowledge or background and they've experienced it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the 2 buckets that we operated out of. But over time, we realized that there was this third bucket that we just didn't know anything about, which was someone that was social media church. And we were like, well, what does that even mean? And the more we started digging into it, because as we asked people questions about, where they are in their faith journey, are they currently attending church, not attending church? People would say that they were attending on and off. And once we delve deeper into, well, what church are you going to now? Why don't you like it? What can we find that would be better fit for you? We found that people weren't necessarily going to actual church, they were watching Instagram clips of preaching online and not necessarily just like one preacher that they just kind of satellite go to that church. It was just like, you know, they scrolling on Instagram, and you know how the algorithm works. Once you engage with one video, it'll feed you another one of those videos. But as time goes on, there could be videos from this pastor, this other pastor, a pastor in, you know, Washington, another one in Mexico. You never know where you're going to get the next video from. And we were like, wow, okay, so tell me about that lifestyle. And we found like their attention span is really short. Like they receive these clips of like affirmation, no real accountability type of clips. They're all clips about, you know, just making you feel good and attracting you to whatever this thing is. But actually wanting to get deeper into it, we found like that's not necessarily what they want to do. They know they want to do something, but social media church people are not all that interested in accountability, if that makes sense.
And so they were looking in the real world for something that fit their... So it's like church porn. Because that's the thing with like... I mean, but that's the thing with like... No, that's the thing.
Now you see what we do with Welcome to Disruptive Faith Podcast.
No, it is church porn. Because like one of the things they say, one of the things that's bad about porn is that it tricks your brain. Like your brain doesn't know that you're not actually having sex. So it builds up an appetite.
Mine does.
What are you talking about? No, it's a brain thing. And so you build up this appetite for a diverse group of options sexually. And so then it makes it harder for one person to satisfy all those needs because your brain is so used to being triggered by diverse sexual triggers. And that's why like it tends to get worse because it almost like a regular drug. And so here, come on, somebody.
Good job.
Thank you.
You brought it around. You brought it around.
You really turned that corner.
He turned the corner.
It does
This
sound
is
like
his niche.
expertise. Church and porn. Okay. Well, I was still say it feels like what unintentionally we're creating is this appetite for people to receive diverse, many clips of the gospel that fit their own personal preference. And then they go out in the real world looking for that.
Yeah, that's hard because if you're listening to different preaching styles or different kind of, I'm going to say denomination because most of it is around the same type of denomination, but different theologies, right? Like faith or kingdom or whatever it is that they're kind of preaching around. You build that up and not one preacher is going to cover all of those bases. So going there, it's just not satisfactory. You just don't, it's going to be harder for you to really receive the word and get grounded in it because like to your point, you kind of tricked your mind into all of these different things. Like some people want community and like fellowship and small group, and they want a small church with like, 150 people because they feel like it'd be easier to, get that community. But then they want the full production of like Mike Todd and Elevation on the music. And it's like, bro, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that in no 150 person church. Like that's not going to happen, right? And, musically, people hear different types of music and, and worship. And they feel like that is readily available at their local church. And sometimes it's not. Everything else might be a fit, but worship might not be a fit for them.
It goes back to this conversation. I'm really trying to personally transition from conversations about the church because I think maybe because we talk about it so much, I think there's this thought that I don't like the church. I love the church. I go to a church, but I think it's like this is the stuff like we are building people up to have like this can't be what Jesus intended when he said, I'm going to build my church. This thing that we have a freaking potato head where you just pick and choose a buffet version of church. Like, I want this, I want that. It's like, it puts no requirement on the believer to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a weird thing. I don't know if it makes sense. It's like we're training people to be sheep in exchange for their attendance. So it's like, I will make you comfortable. I will make sure that you don't have to think. I will not challenge you. I will make you feel good. I just need you to agree to show up. And so it's like this transaction that seems to be happening between people and church that is like, as long as you can make me comfortable, I will show up.
How do you think that differs from what we've done traditionally in church, like pre-internet era? Like, did we not shop for churches before? I mean, of course, when you're younger, if you grew up in church, you would obviously go to the church your parents went to.
Yeah.
And if you were like me, you would struggle to leave. You know, you had to like come of age where you could actually get a car. And then like, if you still live with the folks, you really had to go to that same church. Like there was no option. But once you got older, like did we not kind of shop? Like I'm asking, like what is outside of just our ability now to visit multiple churches in a day or in a half hour, we can go clean across the world and see what we like and kind of pick and choose. How does that differ other than the quantity than what we've done traditionally in the past? Because I'm trying to, like, are we doing anything different or has it just progressed?
I think it gives too many options so you don't have to be committed. I think about like, even like with relationships where if people could fly around, typically when you're looking for whatever, a partner, they have to be in your immediate area.
Sure.
Can you interact with them daily?
That's true.
But if it was a way where you can interact with any partner all around the world.
Just now.
What? I mean,
no, it's true. It's a great
and
analogy.
I think that's how church is. It's like, instead of saying, okay, these are my options, I'm going to be committed to it. Now we can just scroll through the gram and find, like it has created a lack of commitment. And not for nothing, it's not a lot of options of what you're going to commit to, in my opinion. But still, I think it has created this lack of commitment where we're just looking for convenience.
I guess in a sense it has created, I agree, a lack of commitment. But I think maybe worse, it's created the lack to need to commit.
Right.
The option to need to commit has been almost eliminated completely, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's not even an option anymore.
That's a really good point. Like, to your point, like when people had to consume church and get, fed the word, they had to go to a physical place to do so, right? And biblically, it talked about, not forsaking, the gathering of the saints, right? Like that was a thing that people did to receive. And, there was some level of commitment there. Either it was your family, some form of community, whether, it was people, a pastor, a group, something got you to commit to that particular place. But now the fact that you can kind of Tinder it, on Instagram, you just swipe through a bunch of sermons and, choose a 60. And it's not like you're having to consume an entire, I think this is, I guess, my viewpoint of it. Like, if I was to consume an entire message, then that gives the word time to work on me and get me into a place of like understanding. But like a 35-second clip of something that just is making me feel good about my current situation, right? Or encouraging me, it's not necessarily the same thing. And if I'm used to that and I just continually to consume that and I don't have to actually commit to anything else, like that could just be my lifestyle.
Mm.
And the worst part of that is I've tricked myself into believing that I have Christ by doing that. And I don't. Like, I'm just basically doing nothing. Like, I'm just consuming these clip after clip. But am I really saved? Have I dedicated my life to Christ, right? Am I going to heaven?
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't know that, right? No Instagram clip is telling you got to say the salvation prayer for your soul to be saved.
Yeah.
They're just telling you to love God and it's going to be all right. But did you actually do what you needed to do? And if you don't have a physical place that you're going to or community or somebody to say, hey, did you actually do this thing? They could assume that they're going to heaven and they're not. I don't think that's what Jesus would want.
Yeah, it's like because I think there is a certain benefit, right? And I just wonder, just think out loud, net positive versus net negative. Like, there is the opportunity for the gospel, the internet and Instagram and algorithms, XYZ, have brought an opportunity for people to connect around the world, for people to be encouraged, for the gospel to be spread. But how do you maximize the positive and minimize the negative? Like, how do you combat this appetite of like people needing to consume mini clips and specific mini clips because, you know, these preachers and social media teams, they're all working for the algorithm. So they're trying to find the best moments to post in order to spread. So, I don't know. I guess my question was, if you got something like, do you think the positive outweighs the negative?
My opinion is that, the opportunity is now here.
Yeah.
Right. There are a lot of churches when COVID hit who weren't ready to go digital. They struggled in the transition to go digital. They didn't know much about any algorithm. That was a new word.
Yeah.
And they didn't know, they had no idea how to do it. And so they struggled or they completely fell off the map during those 3 years. They had no church or they disappeared just instantly.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you can necessarily do anything about the bad things that exist or the negative things that exist on the internet. But what you can do is present to the world another option or a better option. And so if you're used to preaching an hour and a half to a group of people, then you got to learn how to cut it shorter. You know, not necessarily your message, but you know, you have to work with what's working, or you cannot. And we already see what that result looks like.
Yeah.
You know, they like church. I may have mentioned it before. They didn't take any credit cards. They didn't take any. They have any option for like any digital giving.
Yeah.
So they struggled.
Yeah.
You know, who has cash? Nobody has cash.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of issues there. So you have to learn how to be, use the term flexible, pliable. You have to be, you can't be so stuck. And I think now we're seeing that that's a big problem with a lot of churches is that our inability to be flexible, to be pliable. And that's not even spiritual. You know what I mean? That's just being effective.
Yeah.
That affects your effectiveness and your ability to do what you claim you're called to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you bring up a good point. It makes me wonder, like, who is the onus on? And I think my assumption would probably be both. Like, I think, and we've talked about it before, I do think, like, and not just with pastors, like, even Christian influencers, I do think, like, we're trying to make people the product or make the gospel the product. And we're trying to, like, people are trying to build an audience or build an influence, and for what? And I just wonder, like, is the obligation more on the presenter to preach a more substantive presentation of the gospel within a certain time frame? Or I guess it's both, because I feel like the onus is also on the listener to desire more.
Yeah, but they both have 100% on each side.
Yeah,
I agree. I think both. I'm just thinking as we was talking and what you said, which is crazy about the stats with the Instagram. I didn't even think about that genre of people. I don't know the word to use there, but I was thinking. I wonder, because going back to Jason's point, even back in the past, there's always, like, I think the Big C Church always had an issue of like this, like, who responsibility is it? Like as far as the type of preaching that's going across versus like the congregation's responsibility to do studying for themselves, to understand. Like, we always, that issue is not new.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, like, I guess, and then I'm posing this question to you guys. Like, what is biblically, like, what is preaching? Like, what is it? Like, what is it like for? Like, what is it intended for? And then the second question I think about is, like, when I look at the Bible, I think a lot of times, we kind of get the lens on, like, the preachers or the people that was leaders, like the Paul. And we don't really get a full insight of like, for example, in Acts, where it says the church multiplied, like, that getting insight of what that looked like, their study time, or like, was there a misunderstanding in their interpretation? Was they just doing like we do, just coming and just listening and then just chilling? Or was there some type of active participation and growing and personally? And we don't necessarily, at least I don't know if we get necessarily that insight, because we always see like Paul or Jesus himself or Peter preaching, or like, we don't get the people, and so I wonder, seeing that as a church, our focus stays there about the preacher. How can I preach like Paul? Or how can I preach like Peter? And that we don't focus and we don't get that insight. So I wonder, does that play a part too? So that's just a genuine question as I'm sitting here thinking about that.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think we raised people to be a sheep. And so, I think you bring them into the point, because in order for the gospel to spread, then it would need more than just Paul. It would need more than just even, the people who they receive the gospel from. They would have to personalize it and take it into their own hands. And it'll have to become real to them. John, I wonder, like, when you guys are matching people with churches, is there a reoccurring theme of the things that typically people are looking for?
Yeah, mostly non-denominational. Like, they don't necessarily identify as like Baptist, or unless they're like super church, right? Or Presbyterian or Kojic. Like, those people are like been in church, like, and they just don't like the church that they at. And they'll put like, this the church I go to, and I want a different church because of this. Like, they're very specific, but you'll start to see like a bunch of like non-denominational or no preference requests. And then they'll say that they've been going to church on and off, and they all around the same type of age range, like 25 to like 40 something.
Wow.
And the more you look at it, music is like, CCM is cool. Gospel music is cool. Like, mixture of both. It doesn't matter. But then you start to see people want like in person. Like, it's not, I assumed that it was always going to be like a bunch of people that wanted online or hybrid, but you start to see more people say that they want in person. So then you start to dig deeper, like, why do you want in person? Because they want some form of community. And I believe it's discipleship almost. Like, I feel like that's something that gets lost when you talk about like Instagram clips and, people that consume a lot of, worship or clips of preaching online. Yeah. The thing that's missing is discipleship. There's nobody to disciple that individual. And they're there kind of by themselves. And that's a urge and wantingness on the inside. Yeah. And they just don't know how to express that because it's not like the clip at the very end of it says, hey, you need discipleship. Yeah. Do this or come do something, right? It's like you said, it's sort of like algorithm, right? It's like, what's the highlight of this message? Let me put that out there in hopes that it spreads. And like, when we had this discussion, I mean, I don't have the answer. Like, I don't know whether it's more helpful or more harmful. Like, I feel like it's almost like the internet and Instagram in and of itself. Like, when it initially started, it had a really great purpose. But nobody ever counts the cost of like these unintended consequences that come behind it. Mark Zuckerberg never thought people was going to be like sex trafficking on his site. Like, he wouldn't have made it. Like, he's not a monster. He wouldn't be like, yeah, whatever. I know they're going to do it. But like, people don't necessarily think of all the negative things that possibly could happen. Yeah. And like the same thing I think with like internet preaching or even like you talked about earlier, like Christian influencers. Like, these people probably have really strong heart for Christ. They feel like they're called to do something. They want to evangelize. And this is the way that they know how to, in the digital age, evangelize. And that's just what they're doing. And to their point, they just don't see the other side of what it possibly could do on the back end. And like, so yeah, I'm torn too. I don't really know like if it's helpful or harmful.
To answer Fred's question about preaching, there's obviously a basic message. I don't say a basic message, but message of life, death, resurrection of Jesus Christ, the gospel, the good news. That's what we should be preaching first. And I was brought to my mind, Matthew 4:19. It says, come follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. I think there's a type of message that creates fishers, and then there's a type of message that creates fish. Come on, someone. And I think that fish. I think that the type of message that was preached then with Paul was that probably created fishermen. And that type of message isn't necessarily popular, but that was the message that multiplied. Yeah. However, if we look at the story of Jesus, when after I believe he fed the 5,000, he recognized people were coming as a result of what they were receiving. And instead of staying like a lot of us do, that could have been the new
church.
That's what we see. But instead of staying, he left. Yeah, we're not leaving.
I mean, if we did something that got 5,000 people, exactly, we would say we would think that it was the right thing.
Exactly,
we would be like, oh, we got to bring fish every week.
Right.
No, I think that is a profound point. Thank God for that tea. No, I think that is. I think that's true. I think we look like something else. Look like you need to drink more water.
Come on, bro. Our listeners have no idea.
But no, I think that is. Yeah, I think that is true, and I think like this is all. Yeah. And I don't know. I go back and forth with this. No, actually, I don't. But I'm admitting that maybe I'm wrong. I think this is all, even this, this is helpful entertainment.
Sure.
Like, this is helpful. Hope that you are encouraged. Hope that you hear something that challenges you. But this is not the crux of your Christian walk. And I think we kind of talked about it before, where in the world, people take influencers so seriously. So like and this is why businesses literally pay millions of dollars for a celebrity to post something, because people will listen to it, not on the basis that that celebrity is well-informed or know anything. It's just that in our Western culture, we tend to give trust to platform. So if this person is on an elevated platform, I am giving them my trust. And it's like we have a Christian version of that.
Sure.
Where you just have a bunch of people like us in our basement talking about Jesus, and that could be great. But then it's like we take them so seriously, and we think that they know something that we don't. And it's like, no, this is all just a better Christian entertainment. It's better to listen to this than The Breakfast Club or Joe Budden. But this is just the Christian form of it. You still have to live your life. You still have to get off the freaking internet, read your Bible for yourself, and grow. Take that scripture and try to better understand what it means to live that out in a real context. And I think like a lot of times as believers, I'm just thinking it's similar with entrepreneurship. It's like, you hide in information. We talked about this before. It's like where you always got to read another book. You always got to do another thing before you feel like you're ready to start that business. Eventually, you're going to have to shut down the books and you're going to have to actually do the work, fail, XYZ. And when it comes to the gospel, we haven't got to the point yet where we're like, okay, I need to actually do the work. We just surround ourselves with more entertainment. And I think part of that, to your point, is that we have a gospel that is built around raising more fish versus fishing.
Yeah, catching fish. You stay on the boat. You never go go to the world. And you get excited because you feel like you're a great fisherman.
Yeah.
You are a great fisherman. But you've reached no one. Essentially, if that's where you remain in that side.
And you can't be a great fisherman if you're not fishing. You know what I'm saying? Fish. You know what I mean? Like at some point, you gotta try it like what we call what it means to be a believer is so passive.
To that point, that's a true point. I mean, and a lot of things that, we could take from Jesus' example, even with his disciples, like it wasn't on a tail end. It was like during his ministry, he put them in opportunities to walk into whatever he was, walk into that. Like he sent the 70 out, and there was some success and there was some failures. But like there was, and I think that's just an amazing thing that Jesus Christ himself was just like, you know what? Yes, you're learning from me, but it's just not going to just rest all on me. Like I'm preparing you guys to do like these same things, these things that I'm doing, these things that I'm teaching. Like this is, go do this, go do this. And you're right. I don't know if that same mentality of somebody in leadership, I don't know if that is the mentality to prepare and to get one ready to go do the same thing. And I just think I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, you guys can rebuke me. I think we're being more charitable, which is true. But I do think there's a nefarious play. Which is, I do think that some of that, going back to this great fisherman fish analogy, I don't think that's an accident. Like, I don't think people, preachers, teachers, XYZ, Christian Instagram influencers are accidentally raising fish. I think
no, not at all. Because unfortunately, that has become the bar in which you measure your effectiveness a lot of times. Because that's the stamp of approval, not necessarily from God or Christ, but from the world a lot of times. Is that if I have this many followers, this many gatherers, it's become I don't know if church was a business then. It's definitely a business now. It almost has to be. To a sense. You know, it almost has to be. You know, I'm not saying that's to be the goal, but you know, you got to put in your paperwork. You got to do your filing, your tax, you know, certain things you just have to do. You got to make sure there's accountability for giving, etc. So to a degree, look
accountability for giving. Okay.
So to a degree, it has to be that. But like I know for a fact that there are preachers whose goal after 20 years of preaching and still have 25, 50 people in the audience is to one day have a huge building with 25,000 people.
Yeah.
Like their goal is not to be the best with those 25.
Yeah.
Their goal is not to be the best. Like, I'm going to make the best 25 fishermen. Like, you have the opportunity right there to create some of the best fishermen ever. You can put your heart, like, you're not stretched super thin, but the goal a lot of times is to be like, nah, these 25 aren't enough. I need 25 times. You know, I got to keep going. So I know that for a fact that there are preachers who measure their ability or their success on the number of dollars and seats filled. So,
but does that fall? So going back to the responsibility, I think it goes back to both, and I think that's what you guys said. But I guess like the elevation of those who have like the not genuine intention to create more followers or sheep versus making disciples. Do that fall on the congregants? Like is it more so on, like, I guess if I'm going to use a preacher congregants thing, just make it easy. Does that fall more on the congregants? Like who makes that preacher, that platform? Is it the people? Or is it just more like I guess that's why I'm at.
Let's let John answer this one first. What you got, John?
I mean, that's a good question. I would say the preacher's job is to lead the flock, right? Which is, once you come in, it's my job to see and believe more in you than you believe in yourself. Because you come from a broken place, right? You're coming from a place of you're running from the world, society, whatever failures and insecurities that you have into the arms of Jesus, right? It's our job in this building to nurture you, to build you up, right? So a little bit more of the onus is on me to see the abilities that you have and to push you to be a better individual, right? To be that fisherman, right? Like, it's my job to help build you up to a point where you believe enough in yourself to now say, you know what? I'm going to be bigger. I'm going to go out and be this disciple that you helped make me be, right? With the, Spirit of God inside of me, I'm able to go out here and do, So like, to you guys' point, like, I think that is also maybe like a lost art too. Like, is that really a goal, right? Like, I seen like this one, it's a secular like meme, but like, they were talking about Jay-Z says not how much money you have or not how many millions you have, but how many millionaires or billionaires that you make, right? Like, they measure success on like, if I got 45 people that I made millionaires and 10 that I made billionaires, like, that all came from my lineage through like what I helped create. Like, that's how I measure success versus like, I got $100 billion. Like, so I think that's also like, from a biblical context, like, how many other disciples did you make to like go out and build these giant swaths of people that they're also multiplying in themselves, right? You had talked about it in Acts where they talked about that multiplication. Like, I feel like that was discipleship that led to that multiplication. And the onus was on the individual that came to hear the word, but it was also on more on the person that was there, that was leading that church to say, you're going to be a fisherman. Like, I'm a fisherman because Jesus made me one. You're going to be one too. And get out here and get it done.
Facts.
Yeah, and I don't think that you can do both. And I think people have chosen the bigger one. Like, it's hard to disciple 5,000 people, right? To have like really be in their lives, to really walk with them and to help them grow and mature. And I think like we have chosen growth over maturity. So it's like, as long as there's more people in the room, they don't have to have a stronger or deeper understanding of the gospel. They just have to keep coming. They just have to be in the room. But it's like, yeah, when you talk about real discipleship, then it starts to get personal. I have a really wild, something you said made me think about it. It's dark. Okay.
Do it.
Okay, it is dark. So please excuse the darkness of it. And if I laugh, I'm just laughing at how dark it was.
Oh, all right.
So this dude named Fousey Tube.
Yeah.
He's
Just recently?
Just recently.
Oh, okay.
So
I know
Fousey
what you're
Tube,
talking about.
he's a YouTuber. He's a big YouTuber. He got in trouble because he met this lady at the airport while he was live on Instagram. And he was talking to her. He was trying to like hit on her. He's saying all type of wild stuff to her. She reveals to him that she used to be sex trafficked. And so he's like, man, I'm sorry to hear that. I used to be addicted to escorts and used to have sex parties. So he sends her $300. Like, man, I'm sorry to hear that. She said he met her at the airport. She was trying to escape. And so he sends her $300. Like, man, I'm sorry to hear that. Later, he leaves, comes back on the live stream laughing. It's like, man, I just had sex with her in the bathroom. And so at first he was like laughing, and then his chat kind of got on him. Then he started crying. It's like, I'm a bad person. But it's like, okay, maybe this is the wrong analogy.
Bro,
okay.
you 0 for 2.
Okay. But no, I think it's like, we're claiming to help people out of their situation and needs, but we're also just abusing them and taking advantage of them in a different way. So maybe Fousey Tube, in this example, maybe he wasn't like beating or a sex trafficker, but he essentially did the same thing. He gave her $300 and then took advantage of her and had sex in the bathroom. Maybe he was nicer about it. And I think, and maybe again, sorry, this is a wild analogy, I think church is kind of doing the same thing. We have these people who are vulnerable and have been mature. And so knowing that they're vulnerable, we don't say, okay, I'm gonna help raise you to a point of stability and security. We kind of take advantage of their vulnerability, their vulnerableness. Maybe in a nicer way, we give them a watered down gospel in exchange for their attendance. Now, how those two connect, they don't at all. But in my brain originally, they connected. But that's it. I was thought why I'm on a roll. I'm just saying we are Fousey Tuesday. Fousey tubing the gospel, Fred.
Okay.
The first one you routed the corner really good. You kind of all on the shoulder, guardrail, and the sparks is flying. You trying to turn your wheel, but it's
I'm trying. All right, too much. I'm just consuming too much into that. That's what I'm saying.
But that leads me to my next question, right? So you saw that video somewhere.
Yes.
Is that a place that you also seen biblical things like Christian videos and stuff like that?
Well, because all I watch is biblical things. All I watch is Christian things. I don't know how that video slivered in there from the devil. But yes. That was on YouTube. And probably right after that, a preacher came on. But yeah.
So I was the question I had was like, does legitimate people like preaching the gospel or influencers like, doing things that are biblically sound on a platform validate that platform's information to the point where if a person were to go there with no real prior knowledge, they could consume something that's not biblically sound, but believing that it could possibly be because there are other biblically sound people up there. And there's no real way for them to know what the difference is if they're not.
Let me ask a quick question. Do you vet your the people that you put on your app?
You mean like churches?
Yeah. How do you vet them? What is the vetting process? Because I feel like that kind of coincides with the question a little bit. Because no one watching YouTube, like how would someone know what they're listening to is right or not, good or not? There's no 4-star rating to this is like vetted through. So there's nothing that exists to that. So I mean, for me, it's obvious that most people go or tend to listen to watch what they're attracted to. Whether, like you said, whether it's the style of preaching, whether it's the message, whether it's the clothes, whether they see themselves in the person on the front. I saw one pastor. He was asked like, "Why are you wearing Gucci? Why are you wearing Louis Vuitton? Why are you so flashy?" And he literally said like, people need to see what God can do. And so, but this is a strategy. This is a strategy. This is what, and people literally being broke or whatever, pour into this guy's life and ministry because that's his aim. He really believes that his wealth comes from God. Sure, God allows it to. I mean, he allows a lot.
I think that's a very noble.
But this is. I'm just saying, like. People are often follow things that they are attracted to. Like I like Lamborghinis. I can't fit in one. It doesn't matter.
You like Lamborghinis?
Yeah, they're cool. I've always liked them.
Okay.
Maybe it started from playing with Hot Wheels. But I'm just saying, like, there's a progression. I desire to be like this, look like this, sound like this. So people often follow somehow what they like. So because that doesn't exist, and because new believers especially, they just don't have they have no guide, like no Michelin star situation for restaurants or Yelp for churches.
Yeah.
Which might be dope. I don't know. Might be my spin-off from Pomley. Maybe we could throw a J in there. Jelp. Or Yelp. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
But anyway. But like there's no like, how do you vet who you allow to go on your on the app as a church or a pastor, so that a person going in can have that let's say confidence that where I'm selecting or wherever I'm choosing from is good outside of just this size, this type of music, this style or genre?
Well, ours is a little bit more like personalized, so it's not like the internet, which is like, there's no guardrail, to your point.
Yeah.
There's no star to say, my man is talking nonsense versus like, this person is legitimate. And that was like kind of our question that we were just thinking about. But for like Pomley, because it's so personalized, like for a church to even get on, they have to contact us or we contact them. And if they agree, then they have to fill out a questionnaire. Then based on their questionnaire, we vet like what they're saying is true. And then we also send a secret shopper. So we actually send somebody to that church that is from us to make sure like it still aligns with what they said that they were, right? And their culture lines up to what they said that it is. So that's our way of like making sure like, the messages that they talking about is like,
I love that,
theologically sound. Like I'm not gonna split hairs on, if you what I had to do was make sure I never put my personal preference of my personal preaching style that I like
Yeah.
and say like that person don't fit it, they can't come, right? Like I have to realize that everybody has a different way that they consume the word. But as long as it's theologically and directionally accurate, then cool. But like if they talking about check your horoscopes, play your lotto numbers tonight, like you know what I mean? Like
if they show up to one of his messages,
they talk about Fizzy too.
Yeah, they talking about like maybe right now isn't it, guys? But look, we'll come back to you at another time. But now is not the time for you to be up. So that's like ours is a little bit more personalized. So it's easier for us to like vet one at a time across the board. But I just felt like the internet and what happens, and I guess my heart is for like new believers, like because I never really even knew this group existed.
Yeah.
And it's like those people are literally falling into the proliferation of content that uses God and words from the Bible like faith and affirmation and manifest. And it's almost like they're using those things to like trick the person into believing that that is a God thing and it's not. But they don't have anybody to tell them that it isn't.
Yeah.
And, you know, they unintentionally just fall into something that's not, it's not good for them as an individual. And I'm like, but they wanted Jesus.
Right, yeah.
Well, I got a question. I don't know if you be able to answer this. I guess what, like someone who church is considered to be like Instagram or social media, like what is it that keeps them there as opposed to going to a building? Like what?
Oh, like a person that falls in that bucket?
Yeah, like I don't even know if you would be able to answer that, but like what is it that
I haven't really figured out. Like, I don't necessarily think that there's one like trending thing that keeps every single person from there. Because if it was, then I just know the answer on like how to counter that. But it's different for different people. But what a running theory is, it's the need to not commit. Like, because it's instantaneously accessible anytime. And you know, I mean, if you guys been in faith for, you know, you guys look old as me, right? So you've been in there to the point where you know people pick up and put down their Christian walk all the time, right?
Yeah.
And when it's going good, they like, I'm good, man. I don't need to go to church. And then something happened and they in there for the next 4 weeks until they clear up, and then they back in the street. And I feel like if people kind of start their walk like that, it's really hard for them to know what commitment is to Christ. They know what commitment is to go and actually receive a word that's longer than 1 minute and 30 seconds, right? You know what it is. Even watching at home online, like when the pandemic happened and I was the YouTube king, but I was watching them sermons on YouTube. I was chilling. And they was like, oh, the world is back open. You could go back in. Man, nah, I'm on the couch, man. I'm good. But I realized I'm not really watching, right? I'm cooking, cleaning, on my phone. I'm distracted beyond distracted. I catch a couple nuggets here and there, but I ain't really like listening like that. And because I had prior experience in church and I knew the benefit of being there in person and what actually it felt like to really get the word, I was drawn to go back in the physical building. Whereas a person that starts with just the good part, what is the need to like go to this physical building? And it's like they have the desire, but they don't know how to get past that barrier in their mind mentally of like, no, I'm going to make that sacrifice, not go out on Saturday and go to this physical building on Sunday and receive this word that I know I'm going to be in here for 2 hours. One of the things we started putting up there was, how long do you want your visit to be, right? 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Just to gauge where this person is mentally, right? They say, you know, and we say typical time frame is 2 hours, right? They saying like 2 hours is cool. All right. But they saying an hour only. I know where you at. I know what you are right now. And I gotta, but then to my point, where would if I do put them in a place that caters to that, I'm almost aiding that, but it's like outside of that, I'm hoping that that person at least gives the word enough time in that hour. Like whoever that pastor is that we find that can condense his service into an hour, like he has enough substance in there that the Holy Spirit does his thing, that person is good, and then they can disciple, you know, within that church. So
are you anti-digital church?
Me? No. Yeah. I like digital church. I feel like that helped us find more churches than I ever thought was available. Mm-hmm. Like, man, you find so many churches that are not on Google,
right?
Through YouTube, Facebook groups, Instagram. Like, you can find some really dope churches. And we found some just that way that we would have never known. And when we match people there, they're like, I never knew this church existed.
Wow.
They love it. And they still go there. So now I'm not anti-digital church. I'm actually not even anti-church online. I just wonder, that was just a question of like, is it more helpful or harmful? And does like the validation of the platform and all the information that's up there somehow happen because influential Christian people also post content on the same thing. So if somebody says, I'm looking for God, they could go to that platform not knowing whether or not they're going to get God or witchcraft.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
What you gonna say, Jay?
No, I just wanted to know if there's a with you. I know we're not here for the app, but you here. So I just had one more question about the app, and that is there a digital option for people, or is it all physical buildings?
Oh no, it's digital. So like they have an option to either visit in person only, hybrid, or online only.
Okay, cool.
So if they choose online only, then we just supply them with, you know, a church that has a really good live stream, right? That fits the criteria that they're looking for, but also has enough quality to keep you engaged. Like, now there could be a church that is also good for you, but the quality of their online is not enough to keep you engaged. There's no point in sending you there unless you wanted hybrid and you actually got a chance to physically go there, feel the culture, get ingrained inside of there and really feel tied to that place like it's home. Putting you on there virtual only ain't. You just gonna be like, nah.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this got me thinking because I think you raised up a great question. Like, is or does pastors and whatever teaching on a platform where they're also other wild stuff validate that platform or kind of implicitly make people feel like this is a place to get reliable information because they're also going to teaching about God on there, but then they're also getting wild stuff. To me, I feel like it makes it more important for churches to be on there because even if they left, then those people wouldn't leave. That would be their all they would hear would be the witchcraft and all sorts of wild stuff. So I think what for me what I think about is like, I don't know, remember when everyone was taking wrestling to be a real thing and everybody thought wrestling was real. And then eventually they had to put these disclaimers just like, hey, these are professionals, don't try this at home. I think maybe there needs to be something like that. Like this is helpful for you. This is benefit. This is good. But this is not what it means to be a Christian. This is not what it means to walk your faith out. It's like freaking Chosen. I like Chosen. Well, I never really saw it because people love it, so I just started hating on it. But I do like the idea of Chosen. But then like people take Chosen and they're like, man, when Jesus said to Peter, you got to step up, man. I don't know. Chosen Jesus sounds Italian. Chosen Jesus sounds Italian to me. So when Italian Jesus says something to Peter, and then people are like,
calling it like scripture.
yeah, like this is like scripture. I think it's that type of thing, even online, where it's like, it just needs to be clear. I hope this is helpful to you, but this is not what it means to follow God. The other thought that comes to mind is like, I don't think we talked about this on the podcast, but we talked about it one time on IG Live. There was recently this preacher who kind of went semi-viral in the Christian sphere where he was rebuking his congregation. He was up there preaching, and he was like, this is what, and you know what really gets on my nerves are when you guys come in late every day. And when you guys come in late, or when you guys leave 5 minutes early. And, you know, and he said, and for you people who are at home watching, you should be in here. And so he went on to say, you know, when people say the church feels like a production, then you're who they talking about. And that irritated me to no end because, I mean, not coincidentally, when he said that, the camera freaking pans out and there's a freaking 20-foot stage that he's standing on with a huge LED screen behind him with stage like none of that makes people feel like it's a production. It's because somebody's leaving 5 minutes late. I think of all the people that we have talked to that have had problems with church, I have not had one person say the reason why I don't like church is because they leave 5 minutes late, or because or because they leave 5 minutes early, or they're late to church. And I say that to say because I feel like we aren't part of it. Is some of this crap you can get at home. Like if I'm just gonna go to church and watch your satellite service, watch you preach on an LED wall from the Spain campus. It's like, and then go home. I personally feel like I could do that at home.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, I do think that church fellowshipping and connecting with people on a physical, real thing is important. But I don't know if that is what is going on everywhere. It's like some of this stuff I really could do at home. If you just gonna preach on the screen from New Mexico campus, I could do this in my pajamas. Like there is no reason for me to come and hear you do that. Like you know, and so I think there does need to be an onus on the church to provide. I mean, going back to what we said, to do something not like flashy, but something of substance. Like something that really does lead to maturity. If me coming to watch you preach every day, does that lead to me becoming spiritually mature? I mean, maybe. A huge part of me says no, but I mean, maybe. Definitely if there's no interaction, if there's no development, if there's no connection throughout the week, but I just come to church every Sunday and hear you freaking lock yourself in a cage and try to break out for Jesus. Like, I could watch that at home. So, I mean, I don't know. I do feel like some of this stuff, people can do at home. And because they can do it at home, they are doing it at home. I don't know.
I don't think they're doing it at home.
They're like washing dishes.
They ain't doing it at home. Like, that thing turns on. They listen to that worship part of that thing for about the first 5 minutes. Then them boys logging off. And they got other stuff to do. Or they scroll to Instagram while it's happening. And I can tell you that is what they do because even I do that.
Yeah.
Like, everybody does it. It's just like, to your point, if I feel like the only thing that I'm doing is coming there to hear you talk, the likelihood of me coming there gets lower and lower week after week, right? If I'm coming there for a real legitimate reason, like I have some friends that go there, I've met somebody, I'm going through some sort of discipleship program or you're helping me through personal situation, something like that, I have a real reason and tie to actually come to that place. And that's really the reason that a lot of churches either stayed, in business or fell out of business, right? Like they always relied on the fact that geographical constraints made an individual come to their church. And once the geographical constraints were off, because everybody had to watch it online, once it was time to either give to that ministry to keep them going or even go back, if I didn't have friends or real reason to come there other than to watch you preach, I could watch this man preach too. I'm good. I don't need to come back there. And that's where you saw lack of connectivity equated to church closing, more connectivity of people led to that church continuing even after the pandemic and, growing and thriving. And you got like almost like a new revival of like younger kids. Like we see 18 to 25-year-olds looking for church homes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what they're looking for is community. Like they want people. So it's sort of like they're getting tired of not receiving that. And they want us to find them a place that has that. And sometimes it's hard. Other times not. But
put us on the map, bro. I got a church for you that we got to get put on the map.
Oh, yeah, like said to be good.
One thing that I hear that you're saying, John, and I thought you were going to say it, and you did say it, and that's the word I thought you were going to say was engagement. That's one thing that I think all churches could focus on more outside of just prepping for music, prepping lights, worship, like all of those other things that that's another social media term that hadn't necessarily needs to cross over into real world, and that's engagement. How not necessarily how engaged people are, but how are you engaging others? And I think, like he's saying, that's where the longevity is going to come in. That's where people are going to return for. Is the engagement. Is not what they heard, but how they felt when they, encountered other individuals. And people want to know that they are loved, that they're cared, that they like someone else cares about them, and that they're wanted. I think that's one thing. People want to feel wanted. Not necessarily needed per se. A lot of people are needed, but like to be wanted is a whole different type of, feel like, so I think that type of like, how can we improve engagement? And that's a metric that I think a lot of churches may need to, not the experience. I think most of churches have been focused on experience, but not necessarily engagement. So,
because everybody's got an LED wall. Everybody got an LED wall and some very, very fancy light. But to your point, like that engagement, even if you didn't have that, and you had true engagement of the people that are there and making them feel wanted, like that's because people go off of how they feel, regardless of what anybody says. It starts with a feeling first.
Yeah.
And then after that feeling comes everything else. Like one of the main reasons that people have an issue going to visit new churches is because of the feeling of anxiety and loneliness. Like they're trying to leave anxiety and loneliness of the world that they're in, and they hope that they don't have that anxiety and loneliness when they go to church. But if you don't know anybody, that physical feeling of anxiety of going to a place that you don't know and being in there for 2 hours is just like, it's overwhelming to a point where you just won't do it, right? You'll just deal with whatever it is that you're dealing with on the outside and not overtake that hurdle. And that's one of the things we try to focus on too, is like making sure they have a host if they need a host. That's your personality and you're feeling that way. Can I provide you with the host and a warm intro to a person that you'll meet the day of, that, is like your friend for that day, right? You're not walking in there alone. You're not going about the things alone. They're giving you information prior to if you need it, help when you get there. If you got kids, if you want to know where the bathroom is, whatever. Just not being there by yourself is the main goal.
Thanks, John. You just made me sad.
What? Why are you sad?
I think it goes. Jason's a jerk, but I keep thinking about this fish and fisherman thing, and I think we definitely are. I mean, fish are the ones that are pursued, and so I think I just think we have not done right by people who are the most vulnerable and need the gospel the most. Like, they have given churches, leadership, people their trust. In exchange, we have entertained them and not matured them.
I need a bigger boat.
It's just like we just all tried to get them into our boat and called that success. And I see a lot of that happening online now. We're wrapping it up. This is my prediction. I said this before. I keep saying it just for my own ego. When it happens, I can say I said it. I think you will see a lot more pastors becoming YouTubers and start podcasts because there's a need and a desire for influence. And when they start seeing their congregation and more people are watching Tim Ross and Ruslan and all these other people, they're going to want to be them because it's an addiction to influence. Whether or not they're leading to maturity. I just think I appreciate your heart because you are thinking about the vulnerable, thinking about those who need the gospel the most and what actually will help them. And I don't know if that is what everybody is thinking about. Like, how do I take this person?
I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of good pastors out there. So I'm gonna speak up for them because there are a lot of good pastors that are doing and changing things on the fly to keep up with what the landscape looks like, right? They're used to the traditional way a bunch of people gonna come in here, go through a regular discipleship class, right? Like, I remember when I went through new membership class, that journey was 8 hours, all day on a Saturday. They ain't doing that no more. Nobody has a span to be there for 8 hours. It's just not happening. So they're just trying to make it as conducive to get as many people as possible to come through there with the hopes that 50% of those people are going to actually follow through with the action because it's just a completely different landscape. So pastors are trying. Now, I mean, there's some out there, I ain't gonna lie, that want that fame, and that fame will make you do some things that you don't really want to do, but you kind of get blinded by that influence that you talk about, and you measure yourself by the influence, and that's like an unintended consequence of being an influencer. At a certain point, you started out with good intention, but now you have to keep it going. So what do you do? If you run out of material, you just gotta do whatever you think will actually appease people. But I think there are a lot of really good pastors out there that are really trying to disciple people. They're just trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I don't know what that is either. It's just hard. Being a pastor is a hard job. I used to look at it and be like, man, it ain't that hard. But nah, it's a super tough job. And it's almost a thankless job at some points.
Definitely.
But, your reward comes from Jesus. So you just going to have to suck it up. You know what I'm saying? Get on that field.
No, I mean, that's a fair point. I think that is a good, optimistic. I don't know if optimistic is the right word, maybe seem patronizing. I think that's a fair perspective. I definitely don't think it's all pastors. I definitely don't think so. But I won't give a percentage. Yeah, and I think the ones that are I'm just in on a good positive perspective because I think that is true, and I think that's a fair perspective. There's definitely not every pastor. There are good churches out there, and I think people who are looking for churches, kind of need to be clear on what is a good church. So I think a good way to end it would be maybe from your experiences dealing with a lot of churches, a lot of believers, what are some things that you think people should look for in a church?
I mean, it's all really preference, but I would say that they should look for does that place bear the type of fruit that they want? Look at the people. And to look at the people, you need to actually physically go to this place, right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing the fruit of what it is that you're looking for in that particular place? Other than that, I mean, it's so preference-based because there are so many different options. Everybody's just going to be different. Everybody's going to be looking for something different. One lost thing, though, I would say is on a church's website, they have what they believe in. That's like a super old school tactic. Old websites would say what we believe in. I believe in the Trinity. I believe in the blood of Jesus. But that's real though. If that church does not have that on their website, you don't really know exactly what they believe. I saw a clip where they was making declarations of things that weren't biblically sound, and that's what they believe. Now, if you didn't know that that's what they believed, and you just showed up because it's a place, that just wouldn't be your cup of tea. So always check and just see if you can find out what they believe from their website. And if you believe the same thing, go there. Or, I don't know, hopefully real pastors will put some sort of disclaimer like you was talking about on the end of their video. This ain't the end all be all. You need to read these scriptures right here for yourself. And you know what I mean? Just put that at the end of every legitimate video so people can go look up a scripture for themselves and start some sort of baseline. Read the Bible. If they don't have you read the Bible for yourself, don't go there. That's my tip. That's my pro tip. If they don't have you read the Bible, don't go there. It ain't for you.
All right. I appreciate it, John, the man. Where can people find out more about Palmley if they're looking for a good church? What would be the best way for them to get connected with you guys?
Website, www.getpalmly.com. GETPALMLY.com.
Come on, somebody.
And we'll find you a church home. And if we can't find you one, we'll let you know it's for good reason. Because we won't try to force you into a place that ain't a good fit. I'd much rather you not go than put you in the wrong place and you have a bad experience and then you blame me. That you're never going back to church again. Hey, Palmley, man, put me in the wrong church. No, sir. I tell you, you got to wait a little longer.
All right. Without any further ado, Distorting Podcast, thank you so much for joining us. Anything that I am forgetting, if you enjoyed this, consider like and subscribing and continue and to have us grow our carnal empire. All right. Without any further ado, peace and blessings. We are out.